Hello, everyone. Welcome to Greet the Week on the first day of October. And it's good to have you here. Jan is joining us. And she chose our topic for today. I mean, every week we're together. Anyway, she chose our topic today about growing thicker skin. Mm-hmm. So, Jan, you want to share with us about your experience of growing thicker skin?
I sure do. And hello, everybody, and happy October. Boy, it's hard to believe that fall is here already. And yeah, I've been thinking a lot about, when you're talking to people, a lot of times you're afraid to say something because you think that they may get upset, or you're going to hurt somebody's feelings, or they may get angry, may choose to anger. But it doesn't have to be that way. But you start with yourself, allowing yourself to hear what it is that people have to tell you. And especially if you're one of those that goes around, telling everybody else what to do. You've got to be able to take your own medicine first and let people do the same thing to you. And it brought back a memory back when I was in the corporate world. I was a quality engineer. And they told us that we needed to change our belief about complaints. Instead of thinking that they were something bad, that complaints were, those pesky customers are never happy, they're always complaining, is to look at it as a compliment, because customers have the choice to continue to buy from you or not. They can go somewhere else and get the same thing from somebody else. And so it's to tell somebody, well, thank you for letting me know, and let's see what we can do about it. And then a lot of times, especially with big complaints with the customer, if you were to resolve the issue, you have a loyal customer forever, because you show that you'll work with them and do things to try to make it better. And so that just improves the relationship. And the same thing applies in our everyday life. If somebody tells us something, it's really been bothering them and they think we ought to know, but they're afraid to tell us because of how we might respond to the situation. But if you allow people to let you know and give me feedback, tell me what you think. I really want to know, because I don't want to get embarrassed going around doing things that everybody thinks is really silly. I need to know. And so I just thought we'd talk about that today.
Right. Sounds good. And the fact that complaint is really asking for more information.
Right. Yeah. Maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe I'm not looking at it the way you intended.
Right. And then also, complaining is a really acceptable way to show how unhappy you are about something.
As long as you do it nicely and provide information instead of allowing all your emotions to get in and start attacking the person's character. And so that's the thing too, is to try to separate that attacking the person's character. You're not telling that they're a bad person, just letting them know that this behavior may not suit you very well. Or maybe there's another way to handle a situation. Maybe there's another way to look at it.
Right. And if we're coming to you about a complaint about an instrument of some kind, whether it's a tool or whatever, and just the fact that you care that they got one that maybe was not top of the line.
Right.
And keep them not only having a healthier relationship with you and not, going home and kicking the dog, but they also will still have a good feel about the company itself, that maybe this was just a fluke of some kind, or maybe, just maybe, I'm not using it to its fullest extent, and there's some little nuance there that needs to be worked out.
Right. Yeah.
And so as you called it, growing thicker skin, and I'm in the activity center. We've been at the Silverleaf Holiday Inn Resort this weekend, and we checked out, and now we're at the activity center before we get on the road to go to Houston. But anyway, I apologize for the noise in the background, but years ago, I began to realize that I personally, when I got real honest with myself and began to reflect back, was that I had pretty thin skin.
Yeah.
And I was easily offended. I had
Mhm.
thin skin, but in the process of that thin skin and being easily offended, I had a hard heart. Meaning
Oh,
that,
okay.
if someone yang-ganged me and I came yang-gang back at them, I really didn't care if
Yeah.
it offended them. And I never shall forget one day I was interacting with this person, and I was right. I was documentably right, okay?
Right.
But my approach in being documentably right was not so kind.
Yeah.
And anyways, I walked away. My daughter was with me, and she said, "Mom, you hurt her." And I
Yeah.
said, "I don't care. I'm right."
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
As we got in the car, my daughter said, "That's the problem. You
Ah.
don't care." And you know what?
Oh, wow. Wow. That was tough hearing from your daughter.
Yeah. And she was like 7 years old, not an
Oh,
ounce of
wow. Oh,
guile in her
wow.
body, not an ounce of guile. It was just pure caring for me and caring for this other person that I had complained and griped to.
Yeah.
And anyway, but you know what? Even though I said I don't care, my wisdom heart said, "You do, you do, you do, you do." And what we think becomes who we are and the way we see things. And so I began to really think about that and I began to think about I'm going to go outside on the porch. I began to think about and to, can you follow me as I'm walking outside?
We're here. We're here with you.
Okay, good, good, good. I began to think about, what I'd done and how I do and how I think about people and that kind of stuff. And I began to realize and reflect, like we talked about last week, that you know what? I don't want to be thin-skinned and hard-hearted. What I really want to do is be thick-skinned and tender-hearted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that whenever I am being that way, I can be aware of it up front and step back and say, "Hey, wait a minute. Just wait a minute here. Is this who you really want to be?" And so no matter what our complaint, it may be very, very legitimate. How can we do it in a way that is not destroying of the relationship?
Yeah. And you bring up a good point, because I can relate to that. You're being right and saying, well, I'm right. This person is wrong. And it's the question is being right so important, more important than the relationship? And so
Right.
sometimes you have to step back and say, okay, I believe I'm right, but that's not helping the situation. It's not helping this conversation that I'm having with this person. Because the more you try to tell somebody that they're wrong, the more they're going to stick with their belief, and you're never going to convince them otherwise. They're just, because you're at odds with them, because you've already started attacking them. Whereas if you believe that, okay, let's work this out.
And what's more important, being right or relationship?
That's right, exactly.
You can be right that you're right all along and you have that broken tool to take home with you. Or you get the bucks back for the broken tool.
Yeah.
And so it's always better to have a healthier relationship.
Yeah.
In another incident of, it was at a staff meeting, and I don't remember. Again, boy, I was so documentably right. It was even in the manual. I could go to the page and number where it was, but I wasn't handling it in a righteous way. And later, I was drinking coffee, and my wisdom heart was talking with me again. You were a little bit rough and could have been more kind about it, and all that kind of stuff. And so I went back into the person. And anyway, the thought that my wisdom heart said was that I have two choices, because I'm really big on choices.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, what are they? And again, the thought came to me: I can either be right and destroy relationship, or I can get down off of my high horse and apologize.
Oh, wow, that's big. Good. Going all the way to apology.
Yeah. And the thing of it is that I went in and I talked to there's three of them that I went to, and I went to each one of them individually. And I said, I have been convicted of my attitude in my response to our conversation. And I apologize for being so harsh. Now, I didn't, I wasn't wrong. You know,
Yeah.
right or wrong, I was wrong. The
Right.
information was correct, that the delivery of it was not.
Yeah.
And, you know, just simply ask, will you forgive me for being so harsh? And just dropped it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And all three individually were gracious enough to extend some grace.
Yeah.
And now that I'm outside, they're blowing off the leaves. So you just be tough-skinned and continue on. And have a tender heart, realizing that everybody has a job to do.
Yeah, we all do, and to listen to what other people say, and to accept it, and to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're saying it with good intentions. They're not trying to be malicious or anything like that. They're really concerned. I mean, that's the whole thing with the change in my thinking, and with the, you know, as a quality manager, was that I can put you on mute if you want. So the quality manager is that is to look at it as if they're trying to do something good. They're trying to let you know what's going on. And so if you can accept these comments that way, and understand that sometimes when you present something to someone the first time, they're going to say no. It's very rare that you come up with a new idea or something different that somebody's going to say, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Those things have to grow on people. And so to learn to accept that there's going to be some resistance, and there's going to be some people who don't like it, but to just stand your ground and say, no, I can make this work. I know I'm going to take this information in, and let me grow from it. But I'm also going to continue to tell you what I'm thinking, and understand that it may not be that well received by the other people. I mean, something that comes to my mind is with my dad when I got my divorce. Is he he's a very devout Catholic, and he was just not happy with that at all, and refused to talk to me, and refused to say anything. And I could have, you know, just gotten all upset because he was returning my letters and all this kind of thing. But instead I said, no, I'm not going to take that for an answer. I can understand where he's coming from and why he's doing what he's doing.
Right.
But I'm going to be persistent and to stay here and work through it. And you know, let's talk it out. Of course, he wasn't a big talker. We didn't really get into the talking out part. But by my continuing to call, my continuing to come over, my continuing to do things, it worked out real well. And so a lot of times you feel that discomfort when the situation is not going the way you want it to go. But then you got to think back and say, but is this relationship really important to me? Do I want to do things to help the relationship grow? So I acknowledge my hurt feelings, but I'm going to keep pushing through and make it work. Make sure that we fix this thing, you know, one way or another. And so I think so many people are so quick to run away and to say it's not worth it. But have you tried? Have you even tried to do something about it? So that's just kind of in my mind, and then to try to let it go, because sometimes these things that they say are hurtful, and we hold on to them. But then to understand, well, where were they coming from when they said whatever it was they said, and what can I do about it? And you know, knowing that it's really not about me, it's about them. And you know, with my father, it was him not understanding, him, you know, us having a difference of opinion, where, you know, I felt like for my own mental health and emotional health, and for my ability to be a good parent, it was best to end the relationship. But nobody wants to hear that, because it's not what you're supposed to do. But I was looking at, what am I going to gain from this? What am I really trying to accomplish? And as long as you really believe in your mission, then that kind of gives you strength to be able to hear what it is that you don't want to hear.
Right, and value the relationship.
Yeah.
And a little understanding goes such a long way.
It does.
Or at least trying to understand. Because there's no way we can understand where someone else is coming from, because they're seeing things like from their point of view.
Yeah.
And
of course, we can always say, help me understand.
Right.
And you can keep asking that until you do understand. When there's an exercise that you're supposed to paraphrase what the other person tells you, and until you get it right, and they say, no,
let me see if I'm understanding what you're saying.
Right. And so that helps to come to an understanding and of the situation, instead of just assuming that they just don't know what they're talking about, it's never going to work, or they don't, it's not worth dealing with. It is worth, you're always weighing that relationship. How important is that relationship? Sometimes it isn't important, and then you can choose to walk away. But most of the time, these types of situations happen with people who are very important in our life. And if we don't deal with it early enough, it can grow into something that didn't need to happen. Yeah.
And then, in wanting that tougher skin and in wanting a more tender heart, how do we know when we've accomplished that? Well, it's kind of looking at the milestones along the way. It's looking at, I'm getting closer when. I see it sooner, stop it quicker.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm getting closer when I don't answer snark with snark.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting closer when I don't even really hear that snark as snark.
Yeah.
It's just someone that's asking for more information.
Right.
That's something that we don't have a meeting of the mind, but we can still have a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Or an encounter, whether it's long-term or, just to have something resolved about a tool that doesn't work, or whatever a complaint is.
It was kind of interesting. The other day I had something happen that kind of startled me. I was with a group of people, and somebody apologized for something he had said several months before. And I just kind of looked at him and I said, I don't remember that at all. I said, we're good. And just to think about that apparently he was bothered by it, because he'd been about all these months, and then he finally got the time to apologize to me about it. And by the time he apologized, I'm going, I don't even remember the situation. And that helped me to think, okay, I'm learning to get over these things quicker, and not even letting them bother me. I can't even remember. I couldn't remember what it was that he said, and it was gone. So wouldn't that be nice if we didn't hold those grudges? If the altercation happens and we each say our side and then finish the discussion, and it's over and we move on with our life.
Eric Klein is a philosopher, and he illustrates a lot of his thoughts, and he told a story about someone similar to that, time had passed and they brought up a question that was no longer. And anyway, the guy, he drew a picture of two people together, and the one was asking the question, what did you mean by something else? And so here is the one that was talking to, like someone that said it to you, and he had this person on top of his head. And he said, oh, are you still carrying that? I'm not. And, if we hold those things on our mind and we go over them and over them and over them, we can drive ourselves crazy because we're not coming to any kind of a conclusion.
We sure can.
Maybe we can come to the conclusion of we don't have a meeting of mind, but we'll just move on down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. But think about all the stress you're causing yourself by thinking about it and worrying about it and wondering what's going on. All this unnecessary self-talk and this rumination going round and round. And I would think it'd be a huge relief, once you realize the other person is like, it's not a big deal. It's already behind me.
Yeah.
Put it behind you as well.
Hello. Well, now they are trimming the grass. And
so where are you again, Mona? You're
we are in Conroe at
Conroe,
at the Silverleaf Resort here.
Okay, all right.
At the activity center. Anyway, thank you, everyone. I hate to draw this to a close. I had a poem, but I think I don't even have it here with me. But I do have one little thing. Do you mind if I show it?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to share the screen. How do I do that?
Go down the bottom and look for the share.
Look at share screen. Okay. Share screen. And it's going to be okay. Maybe not. I can't even. Well, I just hope that the people that are watching today will find some bit of humor in all of this.
Well, it's just about life and being flexible. I mean, things happen in life. A lot of things don't go the way we want them to go, and that's okay. We just deal with it, and it's not a big deal. It's not a big problem. Mona's trying to join us today in our conversation and trying to hook up, and a lot of people didn't cooperate with her, but that's okay. We're still, hopefully we did get the message across to people that that we have to deal with life. Things don't go the way we want. It's not necessarily our fault or anybody else's fault. And just move on. Keep moving forward, and hopefully things will work out. We still can't find it? Well, I'll give another example. Excuse me? I'll give another example about being thin-skinned. Back when I was in the corporate world, as a quality engineer, a lot of times people really don't want to talk to you because we're the ones that come up and tell you, what's not working and what customers don't like, and we try to put systems in place to develop products that are going to be more efficient and more reliable. And there's just a lot of resistance to that. And I used to get a lot of people just complaining and really fussing at me and giving me a hard time. And I learned that you just have to stand your ground. If there's something that you really believe in, you have to keep moving forward and telling people, hey, this really is a good thing for us. I know that you don't like it right now. How can I help you? And that was a big thing that I always had. How can I help you out on this? And I'm not just throwing it over to you and it's your problem now. Let's work on it together. And I think with people coming in and telling you things that you don't want to hear, maybe you can ask them to help you with it, to help you to be better, to help you to do whatever it is, or to not do whatever it is that's bothering people. So it's more just kind of looking at things to understand where the other person is coming from, that it's not all about you. A lot of times it has to do with what's going on inside of them. And the situation I was talking about, they're thinking that it's more work for them. But really in the long run, it could make things easier for you. You don't know unless you try. If you don't take to heart what somebody's telling you, then you may be missing out on something. They may really be giving you something that'll make your life easier. Because if somebody's annoyed about it, then probably other people are as well. And then you can go check around. You can go ask other people, well, do you have a problem with this? Have you noticed this? And get feedback. Because you have the choice to accept what they're saying or to throw it out. You don't have to listen to the feedback. And Mona, I know you were in Toastmasters at one time, and part of the Toastmasters process when you're given a speech is that you have an evaluator who evaluates your speech. And sometimes they say things that you really don't agree with. That's part of who you are when you speak. And so you don't have to listen to everything they have to say, but thank them for giving you the information and taking the time and the effort. Because really it is a lot of time and effort for somebody to stick their neck out to tell you something, especially if they know it's not going to be received well. So to let them know that you do appreciate them for whatever they did. So
So it's keeping your options open.
Yeah.
And always looking for creativity as to how to soothe and comfort and relate with.
Yeah.
This has been a real good topic, and I appreciate compassion to our. It's been entertaining on this end.
Well, I appreciate you, Mona, for trying to stay involved in this week's topic and trying to get us connected here. And maybe we'll revisit this topic on another time. So you have a great trip. Mona's on a trip to teach the world about choice theory and trying to bring other people in to understand what it's all about and how to help to create more satisfying lives for ourselves. Because really, once you start doing a lot of these things that we talk about, life does get so much better and so much easier. It really does get a lot easier. People, I don't know how it is, Mona, with you and Garland, but with my husband and me, people kind of look at us like, how come you two never fight? How come you're always supporting each other? It's like, well, that's what we do. Those are the kinds of things that we try to do. It's not that we don't have disagreements. We just know how to handle them. We know how to negotiate our differences and to move forward with it. So life is full of conflict, and the more you can learn how to deal with that conflict and to be able to take that the other person is unhappy and to resolve the situation, the better off you're going to be, and life just gets better. So, all right. Well, thank you for joining us. Thanks to everybody who's watching, and we appreciate your patience with us. And we'll see you next week for another edition. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.